Hi, this is Tracy from the Girls to Grow blog, and I thought I would just get on here today and share a few thoughts with you. This month I've kind of fallen into a natural pattern of posting and writing about God's goodness in our lives. So today I wanted to share a story from my own life where I especially saw God's goodness portrayed. And this happened actually a number of years ago. It was when my husband and I were expecting our first child. And we went in for our 18-week ultrasound and found out in that the child we were having had anencephaly, which is a neural tube defect. And that while she would be just fine in my womb and being born, she would not be able to live long outside of the womb. And of course, for us excited, prospective new parents, this news was devastating. And as I talked about, it's certainly when something looked bad, and how could any good come out of this? But praise the Lord, He was very faithful in showing us His goodness. And I wanted to just share with you 3 ways during that time in our lives that we experienced God's goodness. And the first one was through His grace. And He gave us His grace every step of the way. There were some hard times. There were kind people. I think of a cashier in a checkout line, of course, not knowing any of the story of what was going on, but I was obviously pregnant at this point, and her being so excited for me, asking if we knew if the baby was a boy or a girl, when the baby was due, these types of questions. And I'm pretty much a private person, so I didn't, in this checkout line with people behind us, really wanted to go into the story of what was happening. So I just kind of gave some generic answers and moved on. And I remember another time I was at work and out eating lunch on the patio, and a couple of sweet older ladies were out there, and again, were asking all these questions. And I just tried to very nicely answer without any specifics. But through every situation like that, God gave His grace. Of course, this time in our lives, we had people around us who were also having babies, perfectly healthy babies, and it would be easy to focus my eyes on them and see what was good for them and yet was hard for me. But God gave His grace. Not always able to explain what that was like, but certainly if you've been through something like that, I'm sure you know how God's grace just abounds. The delivery was a difficult one. His grace was evident there as well. So that was one way God showed His goodness. Another way we really saw God's goodness was just through His gifts. Some of those were people. Our OBGYN was just such a wonderful man, totally supported our decision to keep the baby. When we first found out, we had met with a genetic counselor who had suggested the possibility of aborting the baby, since we kind of knew what the outcome was going to be. But our OBGYN was so supportive. I really believe God put him there for that time, as well as our labor and delivery nurse in the hospital. Just such a wonderful lady. People in our church, so many family members, church family, friends who prayed for us the whole time. They were such gifts from God. And even after our baby was born, some generous people in the church gave some money to allow my husband and I to take a little trip and get away. So there were many gifts that God gave us through that. Again, what seemed like a really bad situation. And then finally, we saw God's goodness through His guidance. And one particular instance of that is after our baby was born, I wanted to go back to work. I had been a teacher for 6 years, but had left the classroom thinking that I'd be staying home with our baby, and didn't need to do that at this point. But I had worked some temp jobs, office work during the summers, and several weeks after our baby was born, I actually got a call from the hospital where I had worked in the administrative offices while I was pregnant, and they ended up offering me a full-time job, and that ended up for the next few years just being a wonderful opportunity, great people I got to work with, and a great position. So God really guided us there, and in other decisions we had to make through this hard time. So I just want to encourage you, if you're in a trial, there are going to be hard days, but God's goodness is always there. Look for His grace. Know that it's always available to us. And then look for His gifts. And there are going to be days it may be hard to find a gift. But especially now, looking back, I really see God's hand, His goodness through His gifts. And then look for His goodness and His guidance, and allow Him to lead, and just trust Him to get you through when the times are hard. So I hope that's an encouragement to you, and I will be back soon. Thanks for watching.